Greetings, salutations, and all good things in between. What's up, everyone? Matt here. Happy Friday. Hope you had a productive week, getting a lot of stuff done. Hope you're kind of getting out and enjoying a little bit of the kind of nice weather, depending on where you are, right? What do we got going on this week? All right, so steady progress for projects that I've been working on. I've been doing a lot of this AI stuff. Got some good news going on that front. Steady progress from AppSheet. A lot of good steady progress on the desktop new experience. A lot of progress there. It's pretty good. And the big thing that I'm going to do this week for the deep dive, somebody challenged the community to build an app using not a single line of code. And I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, all day. Challenge accepted. So that's what I'm going to do later on. Let's dive in. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, and if you have any questions, there's a live chat section at the end. Get them in the chat. I'll answer. Cheers. Let's do it. All right, thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it. So, to start off, I always kind of like to go over just some basic updates about what I got going on during this week, projects I'm working on, this, that, and whatever. So, the things that I've released this week, this will be of more note to the Patreon supporters of mine out there. If you're interested, it's $10 a month. There's a boatload of goodies and stuff. I think I did a video not that long ago. I think it's public. I can't remember. If not, it's over on Patreon. Where I went through everything that I've made. That's like everything that I've shared, all the tools and resources. And I was actually kind of astounded by all the things that were over there. Over time, as years go by, you're like, oh, I'll throw this one thing over there, and I'll throw this over there, and I'll do this. And, after a few years, that really kind of racks up, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. So anyways, $10 a month, head on over there if you really want to check it out. It's good stuff. The things to note for Patreon supporters. So, I shared the base scripts that I used to create that D&D role-playing thing that I did on the Friday before Christmas. So I didn't share the scripts that I used for that because they were very customized, but I took the basic idea of that for text generation and image generation, and I made those scripts available to my Patreon supporters. So there's been some updates to those scripts over the week. So if you've been working on integrating those, like if you deploy them as a library, which is probably the best way, that's how I use them, just make sure that you go through and update any of the versions that you're using for your libraries, because there's been some new deployments. Check out the change logs. You can see what I've changed. The other big thing of note is that, while I'm working on all of these scripts for creating these various add-ons for AppSheet, I'm finding a whole bunch of little things that I can make that are very useful. For instance, say that you want to send some information to ChatGPT, right? Or to one of the endpoints that are available over there. And you want to send like some row data. Like here's a couple of records with the relevant data. Like, you know what I mean? Here's the name of the client and the monthly sales and the whatever and the whatever. And here's another client and the whatever and the whatever, right? So GPT accepts and understands Markdown and HTML. So you can make tables with these things. So if you take your data that you want to present to the endpoint and you formulate it in either a Markdown table or an HTML table, the thing will understand it it will look at the table and understand it in the way that we look at tables and understand it. Now, I can't do math because it's not a math thing, it's a language thing, but it can understand that. It's weird. But anyways, so I made a script where you can throw a CSV at the script and it returns a Markdown table for everything that you have inside there. The headers, it does the little divider thing that it needs to do, and then it puts all of does all of that. There's two methods. You could either throw an actual CSV file that's stored inside your Google Drive somewhere, so you just drop the name of the file, the thing looks in your drive, finds it, spits out a table. Or if you don't have the file saved somewhere and you don't want to save it, I gave you the ability where you could throw a string at the script, meaning I could take the CSV, open in a text file, like in a text editor, copy everything in there, and then throw that at the script. And so there's just there's two things. There's the CSV that you throw in, and then what type of thing you're throwing at it. Those are the two arguments for the script that I've made. And the type is just, is it a file or is it text? So a little bit of flexibility there, and all it does is it takes that and it just formulates that into a markdown table so that you could use this utility script in the middle of any scripts that you're working on, so that if you wanted to present rows of data to an endpoint, this will give you an easy way where you could just take the CSV, throw it there, get the table, and then insert that into whatever you're doing. Good stuff. There's a whole bunch of these little things that I've been working on that are coming down the line. If I just kind of give you a little tease of what's coming up, I'm working on a blog post writer. That's like basically done. I'm working on an email analyzer and autoresponder type of thing. That's going to be a lot of fun. All of these are coming from either Patreon supporters of mine or just people who are saying, hey, I hear what you're doing. Why don't you do something like this? This would be dope. And the list just keeps on growing. Ooh, piece of paper over here just keeps getting denser and denser with things. So if you have any ideas for like, oh, it'd be really cool to see this kind of thing, you know, to happen with AppSheet, let me know in the comments below and we'll get to it. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the news. So, you know, beginning of the new year, lots of good stuff going on, right? Steady progress has been happening for the desktop updates. I don't know if you go and regularly check out the release notes. Hold on, I'm gonna get it up here on the screen. That AppSheet puts out, you know, talking about what's coming out. If you've been over there and looked at what's happened in the past couple of weeks, it's basically a lot of desktop stuff. So you can see there's a lot of resources that are being pushed over towards the this new desktop experience. You know, you can see, you know, when you reorder stuff for the new desktop preview thing, there's a lot of stuff that you'll see. There's a lot of bugs that have been fixed. There's a lot of enhancements that are coming out for it. It's really kind of getting to the point now where it's almost usable. You know, so when they first release it, they told us, you know, there's some stuff inside this thing that just doesn't work yet. Like the force sync was something that if you had, like in a form save event, I had a force sync that would kick off. That wasn't a thing. Okay, it does that now. But it doesn't do it all the time. And there's some things that are a little wonky. Like just the other day, I noticed that, so I was in the desktop preview and I was looking at a detail page and I clicked the edit button, right, to go to the form. But I had it turned on to where you did the edit in place. And so it like just kind of makes the detail view editable, right? And I had some edit controlling formulas. So whether or not you could edit the field. And there was some weirdness in there to where like I was supposed to be in the form, and so the thing shouldn't have locked down, but it did, because, you know, if we were in the detail view, it was supposed to lock down. So there's, you know, still a little weirdness. There's some things that are just kind of a little off, but it's getting really close, and it's to the point now to where, like, when I turn the desktop thing off and I go back to the regular one, I'm like, I really want to go back to that other one. You know, like it's getting to the point now to where it's really, really kind of worth using that thing. Like it's so close. I can't wait for all the hard edges to be smoothed out. But yeah, you know, you come in here and you just keep looking, and a lot of this is bug fixes, and most of them are all centered around the desktop UX. And so, yeah, I know there's one really good one that I noticed was if you're on a desktop and you hover over an inline action, a little tooltip thing pops up. Now it's a little buggy right now. It doesn't pop up. You can't read it, but the thing, like there's a little gray box that pops up when I hover over an inline action. Now they've had tooltips for, like, when you hover over an action, a little thing pops up telling you what it is. They've had those for like the floating actions and for the big actions up top, but for inline actions, so like if I attach an action to a column, it didn't have a tooltip there. They're starting to show. Happy days. Yeah, man. A lot of good stuff. If you come across anything that you think is worthy of note that you want to let other people know about, it doesn't have to be AppSheet. It could be Zapier. It could be fill in the blank. Something else. But it integrates nicely, or would play nicely, right? With AppSheet or with Google Sheets or with Smartsheet or whatever it is. Like all of these things all kind of play well together, right? So if you come across anything, there's a link down in the description where you can submit a form, Google form, giving me the idea, and I'll cover it. It's the idea. All right, that's all I got for this section now. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. All right, this week's deep dive doesn't come from a Patreon supporter. Instead, this comes from somebody in the AppSheet community. I have regular updates, regular emails that come from the community, so I can kind of keep an eye on what's going on. Don't check it very much, but every once in a while, something will pique my interest. And I saw this one, and it said, so it's a discussion about how the AppSheet platform isn't for everybody. And I was like, not for everybody. I don't know about that. I think it really is. Maybe you need a little more info, right? So someone asked, well, what's the difficulty? And this post comes from, I should say up here, comes from a person named Benny. Hello, Benny, if you're watching. Thanks for joining. The question is, I'm glad you asked me that question. I want to create an application for my voluntary association. I want to be able to create an activity that says, 1, who used which vehicle with the total kilometers of departure. 2, how many kilometers the vehicles traveled. And 3, the kilometers covered by the vehicle are added to the total kilometers of the vehicle, so that the next time when I enter this vehicle, it will have the updated mileage total. In another table, I have a list of volunteers. In another table, I have a list of vehicles with their respective total kilometers. This is the part that got me. Oops. I challenge any of you to develop this without line of code. Challenge accepted. It's like, oh yeah, we could do this all day. So, what do we need in order to make this happen, right? Well, Benny already gave us the tables that we're going to need, right? We need a list of the volunteers, so who's driving the vehicle, the vehicles themselves, right? Okay, fair enough. And then we need another one that's like the trip. You know what I mean? And that's it. So this trip is really, if you want to get into a little database stuff, right? The trip is really kind of a join table that's saying connect this user or this volunteer with this vehicle, and then we'll record some other information on it, right? But it's really kind of a join table if you think about it. But okay, moving on. The thing we got to do then, right, is we need these 3 tables, and we can throw them inside of an AppSheet app. Now, here's the thing about AppSheet. Once you know the basic 1s and 2s of how to get around inside the system, you know how to create a Google Sheet. That's where I always start because it's easy and it's free, right? You know how to create a Google Sheet, and you can connect that to an AppSheet app. You know how if you can create several sheets and connect all of those. And then here's the real key. The part that's going to make all of the magic work so that you don't have to do any code, right, is setting up reference connections between the tables. References are the magic that make everything work inside of AppSheet. It's what connects the things together and really where all the power comes from. And so all I need to do is connect this activity table to those other tables. And then there's going to be some magic that happens inside AppSheet that takes care of all of these sort of heavy lifting and will only show me the ones that are for the whatever and the and then give me the... Let's do it. All right, so in order to start, what do we need? I need, go back here. I'm going to start from absolute scratch. So here's my Google Drive, and I created an empty folder for this. And inside this, I'm going to create a Google Sheet, because this is going to be my database for the whole grand poobah of things. Hey, Oscar. Welcome, buddy, if you're still here. Hello, Denzel Hamlet. Sean's back. I'm just going to say. It's good to see y'all again. And remember, if you got any questions, I do a live Q&A after I get done building this thing. I'll answer any questions you got. Get them in the chat now. All right, so I've got my blank sheet here. And so let's give the first sheet the name of volunteers. And then I'm going to add another one and another one. So we'll have vehicles and we'll have activity. All right, so with that, let's do volunteers first. So what do we need? Now I'm going to keep this very simple. No, I'm not. Why not? I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to apply the standard starting template because, you know, this is actually kind of what I do no matter what I'm doing. So if you won't have access to this if you're not a Patreon supporter, but it's really just kind of extra stuff. So it's not really that necessary. I just do it because it gives you a lot of extra things that are going to be very helpful later on down the road, such as all of this red stuff here is what I call metadata, and it's like the creation time stuff. So like, when did they create it? How long did it take them to create the record? Who made it? Where did they make it? How many times have they edited the record? I have all the same stuff for the edit data. Then I have these things that I call the helpers. So anyways, so I always apply these to like anything that I'm working on just because it's standard practice for me at this point. And like all of these columns that are inside the standard starting template are extremely helpful to have at some point in the future. Like that's the thing about it is like I probably won't need any of these, but you know, if I do, it sure is nice to have those. All right. So now that I've got that put on here, what do I need? Now to enter my actual stuff. So this is the volunteer table. And let's see, what do we need? We need volunteer. Okay. Name, photo, why not? Email, if you wanted to make the system secure, you could do that. And you know, that's really about it, right? And an ID, because everything needs an ID. All right, so that's my volunteer table. And if I do this, so what do I have? I've got a name, photo, which you don't really need, and an email, which you only need if you want it to be secure. Now, if we go down here to vehicles, what do we need here? So I need vehicle, copy that. We'll call it name, sure. Maybe there's like a nickname that you use. You're like, oh, that's Old Red. You know what I mean? And then like type, year, you know what I mean? Like we're talking vehicles, right? Model, VIN. That I'm going to build all of this for the US. So obviously, you know, whatever the name of the vehicle identification number is in the UK or wherever you are, it's probably a different acronym. Same thing for like the license plate things. Like it's going to be different. Do what you do where you are. So I'm going to be like license plate, right? And then, you know, I mean, like all of this is like, yeah, you fill in whatever you want, you know, like color, and then like a photo, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could go on for days and days and days and days and days, right? But like, this is good enough for me now. Really all I'm looking for, oh yeah, and I need the vehicle ID to be vehicle ID. Right, so I mean, I got a name and then, you know, a bunch of stuff that describes the vehicle. But really what matters is, you know, just the ability to kind of like, yeah, that's the 2004 Corolla or whatever. All right, moving on. And now the activity table. All right, so the activity table is the join table. This is the place where we say this person, this vehicle, started at this, ended at this, right? All right, so if we go here and let's say activity. So we need what vehicle? And I like to append link at the end of my references because that tells me that this is a reference. Just a little thing I do. Volunteer. Okay. Date. Start. Time. And like, yeah, I'm going to throw in a boatload of extra columns inside here for stuff that maybe you don't need. End time. And then like duration. Starting miles. Ending miles, total miles traveled. And then maybe like notes. I find it's always helpful to have like a catch-all space for notes because you never know when you need to just be like, oh, I just need to note something for this. All right. And so for this one, what do we have? We've got two important things right here up at the top. Remember how I said at the very beginning of this that references are the key to making everything happen, all of the advanced stuff easy inside AppSheet. It's all done with references. These two columns are the references that we need to make. One connects to the vehicle, one connects to the volunteer. All right, we'll get into some more why later on. But I've got my two reference connections. I've got a date, start time, end time with the duration, and then the important bits, the starting miles, the ending miles, and how many miles were traveled. Okay, that's largely all I need in order to get started to do this. And so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a starting table that I want to start with. So I want to start with vehicles. And then I'm going to select the tab, and then I'm going to come up here to extensions, go to AppSheet, create an app. Well, I'll tell you what, I really liked it when AppSheet bought Google and they put that thing right there. It was already easy to get this to happen, but now it like so easy, it's not even funny. So here's my list of vehicles, and I can come in here and I can say, you know, this is the, this is Matt's car, you know what I mean? And it's a car, what's the official word for this? Sedan. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, all right, so we can change some things. So you can see like the vehicle year, it set this to a date. It's not what I want. I don't want that to be a date. In the vehicle name, I don't want this to be a name. This can just be a text. Vehicle type. This could probably be like an enum of like sedan, SUV, truck, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Like, keep going. And then you can allow it like add other values, allow it to complete other values. So the other values that people add come back, make it a drop down. You can make it required. I'm not, because I want to be able to just save the file form really quick. Like, okay, vehicle year, this needs to be a number with no thousand separator of the label with 4 digits. The model, like, you know what I mean? Like this, again, could be an enum that allows you to add stuff and it remembers things. So, you know, this is a nice setup for that. Let's see. So the model, the VIN would be a text, license plate would be a text, color would be a drop down. So I'll make this an enum. So like if you use color, it's restricted to these, which, you know, may work for you, but like probably not. So I'm just going to straight up let people just add whatever they want. There we go. Color. Photo is an image, and then all of my other columns are automatically set up thanks to the starting template. All right. Yeah, and then this thing is complaining because, yeah, it did that. So clear that out. Okay. All right. We should be good now. There we go. So now we've got all the types set for my vehicles. Mind you, not a single line of code yet. So let's create a record. Matt's car. What type is it? It's a sedan. It's a 2003. Toyota. Good enough. All right. So now I've got my car here. Okay. Now let's add the next table. So go over here to volunteers. Add them in. Booyah! Booyah! Love it. Go to volunteers and let's make sure everything's as it should be. So volunteer name is a name. You could keep it that. I prefer not to use that. Photo is a photo, email is an email, and then everything else is automatically done for us. Cool. Now let's go and add myself into the database. So I'm going to get rid of statistics. Don't need that. I'm going to make a new view of the volunteers. I'm going to call this volunteers. And let's make this a gallery view sorted by the person's name. And we'll give this a nice icon of users. Yep, there we go. All right, save this. And let's add myself to the mix. All right, I'm going to update this vehicle thing really quick to give this like a car icon. Sure. It'd be cool if there was like a collection of vehicles for an icon. That'd be neat. All right, so we come in here. So we've got Matt. And his email is multitechvisions@gmail.com. There we go. All right, so I've got my vehicles and I've got my volunteers. Obviously, we need to add more in there, but we got at least something to work with now. So now let's add the meat and potato table, the activity. Like I said earlier, this is kind of like a join table that's connecting the two things together. If you would like to learn more about join tables, I've got a video that at some point I'll put a link up there. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that. Check it out. For the activity, we got, come inside here, make sure all the columns are as they should. So, right? So the activity vehicle link. So this needs to be a reference to the vehicles. Okay? And that's all I need to do. And then this needs to be a reference to the volunteers. That's all I need to do there. Activity date is a date, time is time, time is time, duration is duration. Okay, starting miles. This needs to be a number so that we can do things with it, right? And I'm just going to give it a label, and I'm going to do the thousands separator. I'm going to do the same thing for the ending miles. Make this a number with a thousands separator as a label. Okay. Total miles traveled. So I already got this one. So I'm just going to turn the label on. We're good to go. All right. Now this total miles traveled needs to be the ending miles. Oops. Let's get back here. Needs to be the ending miles minus the starting miles. Does that count as code? Does this count as code? This formula? No, it doesn't. All right. We've got that set up. All right, let's go and let's create an activity record, right? So I'm going to create just a root view for the activity, and I'm going to say new activity. I'm going to make this a form. Yep. And I'm going to give this a plus button. Be cool if there was a plus truck or something. You know, a plus vehicle, but whatever. All right, so now let's do this. So if we go to new activity, and we say, all right, I'm driving Matt's car. My name is Matt. Okay, now if you look here, right, it automatically set the end time. Okay, I don't want that. So I'm going to go back to my activity, and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go over to the initial value. Yeah, and you can see, like, it also set the activity duration to a bunch of zeros. I don't want that. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to clear the end times formula, so it doesn't do anything. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this duration, and I'm going to make a formula inside here where I'm going to say this needs to be the end time minus the start time. All right. But now I don't just want to do that, because if I just left this like this, when we start, that end time is going to be empty. There's not going to be anything inside it. And so what you're going to end up there is you're going to have this really wild looking number where it's like negative 4 million hours or something like that. It's crazy. So wrap this. This might be, you know, moving into low code, if you will. Wrap this in an ifs statement. Ifs is not blank the activity end time. Then do all of this. Otherwise, leave it blank. All right. I'll give you, this is moving into a code territory. I'll give you that. But it's, you know, spreadsheet formula. This is very akin to what you would do in an Excel file, right? Okay. All right. So, what do we got? We've got the ability, let's start over, come over here, create my new activity, Matt's car. My name is Matt. Starting today at now, there is no end time, which means there is no duration, so you can't even see it yet. And then like, okay, so we have the starting and ending miles. So, all right, that's the miles that we're starting at. Cool. Now you see, this is very similar to what I was talking about that happens with the, when you do this sort of 0 minus the whatever, you get this problem, right? So like for this miles traveled, I want to do the same thing that I did for the duration, where I've got like this ifs is not blank whatever. So I'm just going to come here to my total miles traveled, come into here. I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to say ifs, then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say is not blank all of that. Do that. Yep. So if there is ending miles, then do this. Otherwise, leave it blank. Go back in here. See how clean things are. Okay. So we come in here. We say Matt's car. Matt, automatically for today, automatically for now. And then I can come in and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's how many miles that we're starting with. Cool. And now if I go and I look at the vehicle, we see this activity here. And this is the one that hasn't finished yet, right? So like this is still ongoing. So one of the things that I can do now is I could go through and put like a virtual column on this that's watching to see, well, what's the status of this? In fact, it doesn't even need to be virtual. In fact, it shouldn't be. I'll just do it really quick. Why not? So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to my activity table. And then after the duration, I'm going to put a new column in here. And I'm going to call this status. And so wait for that to go. We come back here, go back to my activity table, regenerate, grab the new column. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to throw an app formula inside there that's watching to see if there's an end time. And if not, do whatever we're doing. So it's really kind of like this formula right here. So I'm just going to kind of steal that as a starting point. And then I'm going to come in here to this status formula, drop it in there. And so now I'm going to change this. It's not an ifs, it'd be an if. So if is not blank the end time. Well, if there is an end time, then it's closed, or whatever word you wanted to use for that. And if there is not an end time, then it's active. Let's go through here and save this. Again, we might be moving into this low code territory, right? A little bit of formula work going on here, but I'm certainly not doing like, some sort of curl, something or other. I'm certainly not opening up Python. Okay. Now that I've made that change, and I went and I just updated the record, now I've got this status of active. Okay, so the thing I can do now is I can create a slice inside AppSheet that'll hold these active records. So they're easy for the person that created it to get back to it to say, I'm done. So let's make that easy for them. So we go to slices, make a new slice, come down here. It's for the activity table. And I'm going to call this active activities, right? And it's where the status column equals active. Save it. Save it. All right. Now take this. I'm going to go to UX and I'm going to make a view for that. I want like a table view of active activities. So now I can see everything that's active. So I can see mine. I can see yours. There's a whole bunch of ways that you could clean this up too. Active activities. And then like I'm going to come down here and be like timer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like these things are ongoing. And we'll give this the last view over in the edge. And there's a boatload of things that you could do to clean this up. There's a whole host of ways to make all of this cleaner, easier, smoother. But I'm just keeping it really simple. Which doesn't really kind of seem really simple. But you know what I mean. Okay. So now the person can come over here and they can select their active activities. They can select the thing that they're on. And they can edit the activity that they're on, right? I can come in here and I can say, this is my end time. I can come in and say, this is my ending miles. But we're an AppSheet. There's far easier ways to do this. In fact, AppSheet's created a boatload of things that will allow us to really make this super simple. There's a thing that's still kind of in beta, input. Let's do this. What I want to do, there we go. What I want to do is I want a button that I can press. Like I don't want to have to go in here and scroll down and then, no, I just want to be able to push a button that will put the current time into the time and then present me a pop-up that says how many miles? Like what's the current mileage now? How do I do that? Okay, go to behavior. We go to actions. I'm going to make a new action on the activity thing. And so what do I need to do? I need to do, I've never tried combining things together before. I don't know if you can do that. I'm going to try combining these together. So what's the name of this button? This button is going to be finish activity, right? And I'll even just not do that. I'll just leave it like that. And I'll make this like a check mark where it's like, yep, we're good to go. So what do we want to do? We want to set the values of some columns of this row. We want to change the end time to now. That will set the duration. And then I want to set the ending miles to an input. See if this works. I don't know if you can do two things in one like this. I think you have to have them separate. I think so. So bear with me here. We're going to see if this works. Okay. So if I come here, so now we have this button that I can press. And so when I press this, I'm hoping it'll set now and give me a pop-up. Okay. Gave me the pop-up. And so if I say this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 93. Yeah, there we go. Hey, it did do it. Look at that. It set the ending time to now. I don't know. Yeah, nope. I have it hidden. Maybe you can see it. Right, popped up there. And it gave me a pop-up for my miles. And the math is automatically done for me, telling me that I drove 4 miles. Cool. Now, you'll notice this button is still here. I want this button to go away when I'm done, right? Okay, so all I got to do is come down here, go to this behavior section for only if this condition is true, get rid of this, and I only want to see this if that status is active. You got to spell active right. There we go. All right, now if I do that, notice not there anymore. And inside the active activities, the thing's not there because it's not active. Now, if I go to the vehicle and I look at it, we have this activity here. And inside this, it has the total miles. So one of the other things that was requested was being able to have a list of vehicles with their respective total kilometers, right? The total distance that's been traveled for the vehicle, right? All right, well, based on how I've just built the system, where after you close the activity, you enter the total miles that the vehicle has, this means that that last record that we have, that contains the total that we actually need to see. Like, we don't need to do any kind of math or anything like that. All we need to do is say, all right, well, there's a list of all of these activities over there for this vehicle. Give me the last one over there, and then give me whatever the total miles is for that. And then let's display that on the vehicle level. Surprisingly easy once you know the trick. So if we come back here, we go back to our app, we go to vehicles, right? All right, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we'll find related activities. So these are all of those activity records automatically sorted and separated for each individual whatever that I'm looking at. So I'm looking at my car. So in the related activities is nothing but my activities for my car. When I look at the fire truck, it's just the fire trucks. When I look at the whatever, it's just the whatevers. This is what makes all of that heavy lifting that you would otherwise have to code out done for you automatically. And it's accomplished through setting the reference column on a table. So in the activity, I said this column, the vehicle column, is a reference to the vehicle table. That gives me this related activities on the vehicles table, which now gives me the ability to do all kinds of crazy advanced things. Because, like, for instance, we want to know what is the total miles. The total miles is the last total mileage out of this list. Okay, how do we get the last thing out of this list? I have a video for that, which maybe if I'm on point, I'll eventually put a link up here, maybe down in the description. Look for last whatever. How do you do it? Relatively simple. Create a new virtual column, come into the formula. Okay, it's all about index. So start an index formula, come down here. If you're not familiar with how index works, check the documentation. It's a fantastic thing. So we're saying, out of these related activities, give me the count of the related activities. What does this do? Okay, related activities, whoopsie, wrong macro key. So what is related activity? So what does this do? Okay, well, index gives me an item out of a list. I can say, here's a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me the first thing. Well, if they're in order, it's number 1. Give me the last thing. Okay, what is the last thing? Well, count how many things are in the list. Whatever that number is, that number represents the last thing in the list. If there's 5, there's 5 things in the list. The 5th thing is the last thing. If there's 555, give me the 555th thing. That's the last thing in the list. So if I count the list, it'll give me the last thing out of it. There you go. Happy days. Super, super, super easy hack in order to get the last related activity. Now I'm going to change this from a reference to an enum base type reference. This is just stuff that I know to do after a while to keep the app light. But now, okay, this new virtual column down here, if we look, this new virtual column is holding this string of gibberish, 5 AFEB, whatever. But what is that? All right, if we go back to my sheet and I look at my activities, it is the last vehicle. Interesting. Why did it give me the last vehicle? So on vehicles, hold on. Something's not lining up here. So this should be this value, but it's not. It's this value. That's wild. All right, let me make sure. Index related activities, count related activities. Yeah. Oh, I bet you I know. I set this to no, that's the right table too. That's really interesting. All right. We'll move on and hope that this just continues to work. Yeah, I bet anybody who knows what's going on, they're probably going, huh? What is that? That's not right. That's not supposed to do that. Okay. But now, out of this last activity, what I can do is I can now create a secondary column where I can say, cool, from this activity, give me, where's it at? The ending miles. So if I come here and copy this and do a dereference, there we go. Now this should be, yep, a number. And if we save this and we save this, we come back and we look, we should have a new virtual column, yep, that has our numbers in it. Now if we look at this number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 9, 3. And if we look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 3. This is this. This is this. Now, let's add another one. So if we add another activity for Matt's car, for Matt, let's say this was done, a while ago. Cool. And then we'll say, it was like 12:21:00 in the PM when they finished. Okay. Now, the starting miles would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3. And then it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 8 something. Boom. There we go. So now we've got 70 miles that have traveled. So if I save this, okay, so now there's 2 entries inside this vehicle, right? And so if we come back here and we look at the numbers, there's the original one, and here's the new one. And notice the new one is the new value. The value for this virtual column that I made is the last one here. So this is now pulling the last total mileage for the vehicle. Okay, so let's give this a nice name. So like vehicle total mileage, something of this nature. Can't spell. There we go. And now, if we go back to what the challenge was, right? All right. Who used the vehicle, the total when they departed, how far they went, the total number of the vehicle with the updated total mileage. When I come inside here, and I go to my app, and I go to my vehicles, and I look at my car, and I come down here, vehicle total mileage. Now that I'm going to do one step further. I know I probably could have quit a while ago, but you know me. I like to keep going. Oh, my little Zoom thing. There we go. All right. So the next thing that I want to do is all right, so let's come in here. So if I make another activity and I'm saying I'm doing it for this vehicle, I want the starting mileage to automatically pull in what what it's set for that vehicle, for this thing right here. Okay, so what can I do? I can come here, copy this column, because I need its name, go to my activity, go to the initial value for my starting miles. That's over here. So the initial value for my starting miles. And I can say, cool, go to the vehicle and let's dereference the total mileage and drop that here. So that is going to make it to where when I start something, so like if I come back here and I say, all right, I'm starting an activity, and notice the starting miles is empty right now. But as soon as I select a vehicle, if you come down here, now it's got the most recent mileage recorded for that vehicle. And then, if I needed to change this, because, it's not 65, it's 85, because somebody recorded some stuff in the middle there. Whatever. Now I've got my active activity, and I can come back here, and when we're done, I can say I'm done. And what is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 85. Boom! We drove 100 miles. If I go to my vehicle and I look at my vehicle and we come down here, its total mileage is now 985. Some code ish, right? Some code ish. But certainly not going to a Python, terminal and and a SQL server and doing what, like, you know what I mean? Like, all of this was accomplished through largely clicking on the screen with my mouse. That's what I really like about AppSheet. And boatload of stuff is really possible from here. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, okay, now you want to get into some really fun stuff, right? All right, well, let's go to UX and let's say, all right, I would like to see for my vehicle, I would like where's it at? A chart view where we're going to chart the total mileage no, I have a better one. We're going to go to the activity, and I'm going to create a row series line graph of the total miles traveled. Maybe? No? Okay, how about a column series? There we go. And so then, like, all right, we're starting to get something going on here, right? And then if I come back to my activity and I say, instead of marking the vehicle as the label, which is what you're seeing down here, which doesn't help, right? This doesn't help at all. What I really want to see down here is dates. If I move this to the date, now my chart is starting to make a whole bunch of sense all of a sudden. And notice, like, there was no hard bit to that at all. Like, this is just, I'm just going to see what this does. Like, this is what I love about AppSheet. It's just kind of like, well, let's just play around and see what happens. But like, look at this. I've got this floaty ability where I can float over it and it shows me all of the details for this. I've got like this line that's delineating inside the chart. I can click on it and it takes me to the details. I didn't have to do a single thing in order to get that chart to work. This is what I love about this stuff. And like, all right, let's make this chart, you know, let's put it in between the volunteers and the vehicles. And we'll say mileage, right? And like, is there a road? Yes. Mileage. Oh, look at that. How perfect is that? Perfect. Now, if I come in here and like you start adding more bits to this, right? I add more vehicles. I add more tables. I add, like, you could do a whole bunch of stuff. I could throw in, here's a fun one. Say you wanted to get an email every time somebody was done with a trip so that I knew, okay, somebody just finished something. And like that email, I wanted it to contain all the details for the trip that happened. Time me. Start a timer. Start counting. Go to automation, like ending email notification, right? So activity ended. So on an update of the activity where a whole bunch of ways we could do this. Where, and now I'm going to get a little weird here. This row before dot status equals active. And then this row after status is closed. Let me make sure that that's the right word. Yep, closed. Okay. So if that's true, so if the activity status before was active and the activity status after the change is closed, kick off this event here. And what do I want it to do? Email me, right? Send an email with a custom template for the activity to multitechvisions@gmail.com. And then what's the email subject? Activity ended, right? And then like, look at this. AppSheet already put all the stuff that I need in here. Now I need to clean this up a little bit in order to make it clean, but like, here's the vehicle, here's the volunteer, the date, the start time, the duration, the starting miles, the ending miles, the notes. Like literally everything that I need is automatically here for me. I don't need to do anything. You see what I meant? You see where I'm going with this? Like, there we go. I'm done. Now let's try this. So if I come over here and I say I want to start a new activity for Matt's car, Matt's doing it. Let's say that this was last Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Starting at this, and it ended at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, whatever. Yeah. Whole bunch of miles, right? Thanks for letting me use your vehicle. You rock. Right? All right. Now, if I save this, the activity is over automatically. All right. If I go and I look at my email, let's see. Did it come through? No, I haven't deployed it, so it might not have kicked through. And might have been caught by spam or something. I'm not seeing it over here yet. Hold on, let me look at my spam folder. No, maybe. This AppSheet app notification that I built the app though is inside my spam. That's interesting. All right. I'd have to go through and do some more debugging because it's not cooperating and playing nicely. But you see how easy all it is, how setting up all of this sort of stuff is, right? Oh, I know what happened. I know why that didn't work. Because I created it in the closed status. Let's do it again. All right. I need to start the activity. And so let's do one from here and let's do it like this. So 9 a.m. starting with whatever. All right, now this will work now. Like I come in here and I say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 33. Cool, 70 miles. Okay, that went through. Let me go check my, there it is. Hey, happy days. And so if I open this and bring it over here for you. So, right? So the vehicle link. All right, so we need to clean that up so that we can see what the actual vehicle is. Same thing for the volunteer because it's just giving us the ID. But like date, time, end, duration, status, total miles traveled. I didn't have to do a thing in order to get there. Not really. Beauty of AppSheet. All right, everybody, that's all I got for this section. Let's move on to the chat. Yeah. I want to thank Benny for the challenge. I've been honestly kind of like, I've been thinking that this would be a fun thing to do for a while now, for a couple of months, where it's like, there's a lot of stuff out there. Because I have some friends that are traditional developers that went to college for software engineering, and I've showed them AppSheet, and they're like, oh, that's nice. It's kind of like a little whatever. It's like, yeah, but there's a whole lot more going on here. Like, you shouldn't poo-poo this, man. This thing is amazing. And they're like, yeah, but like, whatever. It's like, And like when I get those sorts of responses from traditional developer types, I'm like, man, I really want to do a challenge. I really want to be like, all right, cool. Let's sit down, you and I, and in an hour, let's give each other an hour, right? And you do you, I'll do me. Like, let's come up with this is where we're shooting for. This is the end goal. And like, you can bring all the tools and all the hacks and all of the libraries and all of the pre-made code. And like, hey man, every crutch, every tool, everything that you got that will help you make it faster for you, rock it. I won't use a single one. Like, I'll just stick with AppSheet. I won't even use like my auto tables and like all that fun stuff that I figured out. Like, I won't use any of that. I'll just literally just do it, just the thing. See how far we get in an hour. I've never done that with somebody because I have too much respect. Like these are my friends, and I don't want to make a fool out of them. You know what I mean? Like, because I know, like, anybody that's in the AppSheet world that's been doing this for a while, like in an hour, mate, I'm going to get so far inside this app. I'm going to have so many things that this thing can do that like you're going to have a simple wireframe that's got like 2 pages and a couple of buttons and it does one thing. And like I've got 50 pages, boatloads of automation, emails, logic validation, like I mean, like API integrations, like in an hour, we can get so much done using the AppSheet platform. Yeah. But anyways, I always thought that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Let me know if you have any more challenges. I'm down. Let's hop in. So is there any questions? The chat's looking pretty Spartan this time. I see, hey, Denzil Schneeman. Sorry, Schneeman. You're welcome for the show. You know, this is a fun thing I like to do. It's kind of a highlight of my week. Vasquez, thanks for showing up. He says they need more options in the context function for the new desktop experience. Like if the detail is in edit mode. Oh yeah, you're right. Some of those things would be very helpful, or being able to tell if we're in a split or if we're in the full screen for editing the form. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these new things that would be rather helpful to have thrown in to the context system. Yeah. Maybe make a, Hamlet, have you suggested that yet? If you have, get the link for it and drop it down below. Everybody that catches this, go vote for it. Maybe we'll get something done there. Yeah, you're right. Oscars, and hello, Hamlet. The label for the activity table. All right. So Hamlet, what do you mean a label? In what way? What would you like? Give me an example of the label that you would like to see for the activity table? And yeah, that's a good idea. I largely forget to throw in a label column whenever I'm making tables, but then eventually I always put in a label column. Like I'm starting to think I should just make it part of the standard starting template. Just that's the label. It's marked as the label. Do whatever you want with it. So while Hamlet's coming up with his thing, Paul Marchenko asks, can you talk more details about the new input formula? Yeah, sure. So input's a fantastic thing. It's still in beta. Largely. There are some aspects of it that don't really work 100% yet. But I mean, just like this today, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this sort of combination of thing where I'm setting the value of something and using input to set something else. I wasn't sure if that would work. There are some more advanced scenarios where it's like I've got the input. Say I've got a stack of actions where instead of this being a singular button, perhaps this is a stack that's executing a couple of things. And if like I've got like do a data change, do an input, and then do something after the input, sometimes that can get a little weird sometimes depending on what you're doing. So it's little things like that where they still need to kind of smooth out some of the rough edges. But input, the way that you use input, so if I just come inside here, this was a nice little thing that Oscar pointed out to me. If you just use the formula input and then blank, comma, blank, basically what you're saying is I need to get input for whatever column this input formula is in. So I have a data change action here where I'm setting the values of some column of this row, and then I selected the column that I want to set, and I'm saying I want to use input to set that value. And what this does is it renders that pop-up of, let's see if I go over here and create an activity for something really quick. So if I come in here, right, and so it creates this pop-up here of what's going on. Now, there is also some more advanced scenarios where, let's say you've got the ability to hit cancel, right? So people can either hit save or cancel inside that pop-up. And so this is where a lot of different things can kind of happen. This is where nuance really starts coming in, because like we'll say the pop-up is presenting you with a field that allows you to enter something or change value, and depending on the value you enter, something else after that needs to fire off. So like there's some nuance there, right? That sometimes isn't 100% yet. The solution there is like you fall into that scenario, make note of it, send it to AppSheet so that they can fix it. This is one of the things that we used to face all the time in the early days of AppSheet, is that we had problem with the regenerate button. It used to be a nightmare. It used to cause a lot of problems when you would regenerate your table. And for the longest time, nobody was reporting the actual problems to AppSheet. They were just like, this is a nightmare. And like they'd complain, but that would be it. They wouldn't officially tell AppSheet. And like eventually AppSheet caught on to that. And they're like, yo, you need to tell us these things, because if we don't know about it, we're not fixing it. So anytime you come across one of these little things, go over to their help thing and throw it out there. But yeah, this input thing is rather amazing. You also have the ability, so the formula that I used was just this quick little like blank and blank. If you go to the official documentation for input, I'm not sure if it's in here yet. Hey, yeah, it is. Cool. And if you go here and you look at the syntax for it, the actual way that you're supposed to use it is you drop the input name, which is like what is the name of the column that you're trying to set, and then what is the default value that you want to use. So the formula that I used was setting it to a blank, right? I just said blank, right? But like you could set that to an actual value. One of the common things that I'll do is, get out. If I go back here, let's say I want to set this column to the value that's already here, right? All right, if I wanted to do that, I would change this formula like this. I'd come up here, copy the name of this column, because this is the one that I'm setting, and I'm going to put that in the in the quotes here. And then over here, I'm going to get rid of that blank, and I'm going to put the name of the column in the square brackets. Because what this is doing is this formula tells the system this column set to this value, present an input now, right? And so what this will do is if there is a value inside the ending miles, whatever's there, it will grab that and put it inside the thing and present it to you with that value already. So now like I can do things to where like I can come over here and I can say, do the starting miles plus, 500. You know what I mean? Like I could make this to where this could be like, if starting miles is greater than or equal to 500, set it to, 0. Otherwise set it to the starting miles, and make it a legitimate formula inside here. See what I mean? Like these are the types of things that you can do inside here. And so then what this would do is it would initiate this input, and then whatever this if statement comes to, it would set the value inside that input form that came up to this thing. One last thing I'll touch on for this element here for the input thing. Right now you see this display, this pop-up only has one thing inside it. You'll remember that I had the field for notes. So maybe I want to present them with the ability to add notes to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to my action. So this is this button that they press, right? So I'm going to come back to this and I'm going to say, I want to set notes to input again, right? So now if we look at this data change action, what do I got going on here? I've got 3 columns that I'm setting. One, I'm hard coding to whatever the current time is. And then the other 2 have this input formula for it. All right. Now, if I come back over here and I come to my active activity, right? And let's say I'm going to finish this. Oh, well, it would help if I saved. Yeah. All right. Now let's try it. If I come back here and we go to the activity and I say, let's finish, Now I've got the ability to set the ending miles along with the notes. But like, all right, now here's the thing. So like the activity ending miles, notice it's 0. It's empty right now. All right, well, let's default that to the starting miles, shall we? So if we come here to this ending miles, right? We come here and let's change this. So I want to set ending miles to whatever the starting miles is. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to copy the starting miles column. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put that there inside the end, inside here. So when I open this, when the input pops up, it should set the ending miles to whatever value is inside the starting miles. Let's see if that works. Save it, propagate it. Nope, didn't work. So, yeah, you can see things are still in flux. It's still very much in beta. In fact, if you look inside, if you look inside here, the expression assistant even tells you, warning, input feature is in beta. So there's some things that don't work yet. So just make note of that, right? But I don't know if you also noticed, but like, okay, this button that I'm pressing sets the ending time to now and does this input stuff, and it's only visible if the status is active. But notice, like, okay, I pushed the button, and so when I pushed it, it should have set the end time to now, but like when I hit cancel, it's not setting the end time. Notice that? So like I push this, and you would think it would have automatically done this, but it didn't. It's waiting to do this part until I hit the save button to complete this, so that if I hit the cancel, it doesn't do this part, so it doesn't move on. So there are some things that they've taken into consideration to make the flow nice, but there are some things that are still very much not working. Nature of the beast. It's AppSheet. Hope it helps. Let's see what else we got. Denzel Snyman asks, hi Matt, I think Hamlet meant the ID showing on the VL activity link is maybe marked on the table as a little bit, referring to the unique ID is the thing. Yeah, okay, I got you. Very true. That's probably exactly what was going on. Let's see if we switch this, if we go to the vehicle. No, the name, the name is marked on the vehicle, and for the volunteer, the name in the photo. If I look here, I bet you the photo is too. Yep, photo. So like, all right, if we wanted to fix this notification, so this email, right? The email that I got was giving me the ID here. All right, well, the thing that I can do is I can just come over here and I can fix this and add in a dereference. And so inside this part, that little gibberish thing that I just put there, that's where I'm going to put the column name for this respective table that holds the thing that I actually want to show. So like if I get out, okay, we go to here, we go to the vehicles, and I want the vehicle name. Come over here, put that in the second part. Go back to my sheet, go to the volunteers. I want the volunteer name. Put that there. And so now when I complete something, I should get, I come back here. Okay, we got my active thing going on. Cool, happy days. I come in here and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 800. Thanks for letting me use your car. And we save it. It's out of the activities. We go here, right? There's the number that I entered. And if I go and I look at my Gmail, bam, there it is. I come over here and show it to you. You can see now the activity vehicle link is now showing whatever I entered. It's now showing the name. Yep, happy days. And it's got my little note down here. All of that done super easy. Cool. Coolness. Happy days, man. Yeah, man. Gotta love it. Let's see. Paul asks, can you speak to the enum base type reference? Yeah, I won't go into a lot of detail about that. There's actually been a lot of details already covered about this. There's a lot of really good posts in the community, one of which I think I made. I think I also have a video about this or two that covers this, but the idea of the base type reference. So if I come over here, if I go to vehicles and I go down to the bottom and I go to this last activity, right? Okay, so I changed this from the reference type, which it wanted to set it to an enum base type reference. All right, now the reason I did that is because when you set a column to a reference, so if I go and I show you on the activity, so this table has two reference columns, one to the vehicles, one to the references, one to the volunteers. When you set a column as a reference, it creates the reverse reference. It creates this virtual column automatically with the ref rows, whatever, saying related, whatever the thing is. That's automatically created whenever you create a column that's a reference, which means if I would have left this other column down here, that's the last activity, if I would have left this as a reference, it would have created a reverse reference on the other side. So like if I just come in here and I save this, I guess it didn't do it, but if I come in here and I change this to a reference to the activity table, and I save this, I can show you what's going to happen. So now, if we go and we look at activity, all the way down to the bottom, it created automatically for me this reverse reference of related vehicles. Now, I don't want that because I don't need to see the list of the vehicles on the activity, because the activity doesn't need to show the vehicles need to show the activity. Follow what I mean? But because I created that virtual column on the vehicle table that's holding the last activity, and because I set that column as a reference type, by default, AppSheet creates the reverse reference for me. And eventually over time, if you have a whole bunch of those, that will eventually slow down your system. Especially if I've got like one column that's creating a reverse reference and I've got 50,000 records over there. It's a lot of things for it to chew through. So that's why you come back here and you change it from the reference to an enum base type reference to the same table. Setting it up as the enum base type reference allows you to have the capability to still do the dereference thing. So like this is a reference to some other record, and then in that record there is a value that I want to get, the last mileage. Setting it up as an enum base type reference like this allows you to do that sort of dereference bit without creating the reverse reference part that will eventually cause a slowdown for your system. That's the short and sweet of the enum base type reference. Hope it helps. All right, y'all, that's all I got. Looks like there's no more questions. Cool. All right, we will move on. Let's go. Let's see where we we're going. Over here. Hey, it's getting pretty dark, isn't it? There we go. Let's turn the lighting up. And thanks for joining me, everybody, on this Friday. I do appreciate it. If you have any further questions about how to do something, drop it into the comments in the comments below. Sorry, brain fart. And I usually do a comments segment inside the live stream. Next week I'll do that. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for showing up. I really do appreciate it. If you want to support what I do, if you want to gain access to any of the tools and resources that I've built, if you would like to help drive the ideas for the resources that I'm building now and where I'm going in the future and what you want to see, head on over to my Patreon page. Some good stuff over there. I've got a lot of really advanced things that are in the works. They won't be on my Patreon page. They'll be over on my website. Link down in the description below. Check it all out. Do all that fun stuff. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate it. And remember, when you're working on your AppSheet app and you run into a roadblock, say it with me. Keep calm and AppSheet on! See you in the community, everybody.